Hey, good morning. I'm Paige Browning. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. At the end of March, light rail trains will finally run between Seattle and the Eastside with stops in Mercer Island and Seattle's Judkins Park. It's not an overstatement that this connection is a huge deal for people who live or work on opposite sides of Lake Washington. Coming up, we'll talk with KUOW's growth and development reporter, Joshua McNichols, about the economic power of a more connected region. But first, let's get you caught up. More people than ever were evicted in Washington state in 2025. In King County specifically, evictions increased 12% from 2024 to 2025, according to the Seattle Times. Evictions have increased every year since pandemic protections ended in 2022. Most of the cases involved non-payment of rent, and they disproportionately affected low-income tenants. The Times reports that with almost half of King County renters cost-burdened, the 2026 affordability outlook is not great. Washington State Supreme Court Justice Barbara A. Madsen is retiring. She was the first woman elected to the court and the first woman to serve 2 terms as Chief Justice. That honor was selected by her peers. Justice Madsen says she was inspired to take office after seeing the gender bias the Senate had towards Anita Hill during Clarence Thomas's confirmation to the U.S. Supreme Court. She retires in April after 33 years on the high court, and Governor Bob Ferguson gets to appoint a replacement. And there will be a lot of talk about girls' sports outside the Washington state capitol today. Conservative group Let's Go Washington is rallying to drum up attention for the 2 initiatives they're proposing this year, both which could impact LGBTQ youth. One would ban transgender youth from playing girls' sports, and one would allow parents more access to student medical and counseling records. Check back for more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. If you live or work on the East Side, you've probably already saved the date, March 28th. That's when light rail service will connect Seattle to Bellevue and Redmond across Interstate 90. In late January, Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson and other elected officials announced that opening date at East Portal Viewpoint, which overlooks the I-90 bridge.
If you build it, they will come. This has absolutely been the Link Light Rail experience so far. I cannot wait to welcome thousands of new riders to our system as public transit becomes a viable option for more and more people, giving them an opportunity to bypass traffic and commute without polluting. I cannot wait to use my Orca card and ride across the lake. Thank you.
And it's been a long time coming. Voters first approved taxes to pay for this extension in 2008, the year President Obama was elected. And Britney Spears' Circus album came out, so it's been a while. KUOW growth and development reporter Joshua McNichols is here to dig into what the light rail connection means. He's the co-host of KUOW podcast Booming. Hey, Joshua, excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So, like any big train route, this one has its own name, the Cross Lake Connection. Joshua, can you just remind us how this route will work? Where's it go?
Basically, it connects all the existing Eastside stations, which service, Bellevue and Redmond and places like that. And it goes across Lake Washington, stopping at Mercer Island, which currently has no rail service, and Judkins Park, which is a new station.
Right.
Near Rainier Avenue.
I've been seeing them get that one ready to open. It looks ready from the outside. Okay, so they stop at Judkins Park.
And then it goes to the International District Station, Chinatown International District. And from there, people can transfer between the 1 line and the 2 line there. But the 2 line then continues north and goes all the way up to Linwood.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about this because there's an obvious benefit for people on the East Side. They now have a direct route on the light rail into the Seattle area. But for people who are not traveling across the lake, just trying to commute up and down through the Seattle area, what does that mean for them?
It means double the number of trains from International District to Linwood. So currently the trains are 8 minutes apart on that northern route. But after this new line opens, they'll be 4 minutes apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and people on the south end who currently take the 1 line, if they want to go to Bellevue, they'll have to transfer at the International District. And they don't get the double number of trains on their segment.
I see. If you're south, you still got to take the 1 up and meet the 2 and do a transfer.
Yeah.
So how big a deal is this for people who live or work on the east side?
King County Executive Girmay Zahalai said it exponentially increases opportunities for people. This is in terms of jobs, and it's in terms of housing, and it decreases the friction that's currently separating people from a job that they might be qualified for, but they just don't want to deal with a commute, or a house that someone can afford, but it's just too much of a pain for them to get there. All of a sudden, you've got housing opportunities from Linwood to Federal Way to Redmond that are available to people along this whole spine, whereas before, these things were just too far away. You're bringing all these jobs and housing markets together, and it just increases the pool that's available for everyone.
How else do you imagine people will use the Cross Lake connection?
There's almost these different sort of marketing ways of seeing, the east side and the west side that reflect how people use these areas and how reasons they might go across the lake. Like Bellevue and the east side in general have been talking a lot about their trail access. You've got the East Trail, which is accessible from Wilburton Station, just east of downtown Bellevue. And that's this amazing trail that goes, to the north, and there's a gap in a section of the trail to the south, but still, wonderful long trail where you can explore a lot of the east side there. There's also Marymore Park, for example, which is accessible from Marymore Village Station, and that allows you to access Lake Washington. So,
there's so much to do there, including all the summer concerts.
Yes, totally. And then on the west side, you've got all these major sports venues, you've got larger concert venues, just a lot of niche cultural activities that people might want to come do. Come see the new waterfront, for example. It would be a bear for somebody in Bellevue to currently try to get to the waterfront because, they have to brave traffic or take the bus, but
and find parking.
If they're driving, finding parking, right? In this most popular area of downtown Seattle, and to find parking there, it's just what a pain in the neck. Why would you do that? But now, you can just get off at, Westlake Station, for example, after the train sort of curves around to the north and walk to the waterfront.
As we're thinking of families, what kid doesn't love riding a train?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. In some ways, this experience might feel a little bit like the monorail, where I love taking visitors to the monorail because they can kind of look out over the city. The 2 line is kind of a wonderful experience in a lot of ways. You've got, it goes through downtown Bellevue, which is cool. But then when it curves around and goes past Mercer Slough, which is another natural area you'll be able to access.
You could stop there, yep.
Yeah, it's got great bird watching and stuff like that. But it's just a sort of lovely patch of green to be looking at out your east side window as the train goes south. And then it'll go across Lake Washington, where you can look out the windows and, you have to look across a few lanes of traffic, but there's the lake,
There's the lake.
When it's windy out, you'll see the whitecaps, and eventually it goes into a tunnel, and then it's dark, and kids kind of like that too,
Exactly. And I'm kind of picturing big light rail crowds once this connection is made. What does Sound Transit expect ridership to look like across I-90?
Well, they're projecting for the 2 line 50,000 daily riders.
That sounds like a lot.
The whole system right now, in winter, it's approaching 100,000 riders a day. In the summer, it gets up to 120,000, but our summer numbers are from before the Federal Way extension opened. So if all of these riders are new riders, then, we could be expecting 170,000, maybe 190,000 a day in the summer, which is a pretty big expansion. Because Bellevue and Seattle are just the 2 biggest economies in this region, and you have so many people living and working in these areas, the impact of joining these 2 is, I think, fundamentally bigger than any of the other light rail extensions that we've seen in the past.
Along those lines, how are you thinking about how this could further connect the economies of Seattle and the East Side?
It's really about housing access now and job access. So, we've kind of seen this description of like a rivalry between Bellevue and Seattle in the past, where we sort of hear about, Amazon's laying off people in the downtown Seattle area and hiring a lot more people in the Bellevue area. in some ways, that rivalry is lessened when you have this connection, because when it's easier for people to get across, it's no longer that if Bellevue is adding jobs, like that's their win. It's also Seattle's win now, too, because you can live here and work over there, for example.
And part of this idea as well is to get people out of their cars and onto transit, whether you're going to work or going to a concert. Could this reduce traffic congestion on I-90 and State Route 520, the bridges?
In the short term, maybe, but in the long term, I think no. And that's because of this principle that traffic engineers talk about called induced demand, which basically means that if you create empty roadway, whether that's through building new lanes or like providing some other means of transportation, people will fill it, you know?
Oh,
I mean, think about...
I hear that.
What is the maximum amount of traffic congestion you would tolerate before you would just not make the trip? Is it like if you're crawling along bumper to bumper at, 5 miles an hour for 20% of the time?
Oh, I like not make the trip at all, you're saying?
Yeah, or say I'm just going to remote in, or maybe I'll take the bus or something.
If it's getting twice as long or more, I'm probably going to try to delay.
Yeah.
Or not take it.
Yeah. So every driver has that sort of maximum tolerance of congestion, and it may change over time.
They just need a better podcast.
But the worst day of traffic that we have right now reflects everyone's sort of collective maximum tolerance of congestion. And so, as you remove cars from the roadway, decrease the amount of traffic, people are more likely to say, oh, I see there's a little bit more space for me.
I'll just drive.
Oh, wow. So, I think the metric of success for this is not, does it remove traffic? Because it will in the short term, but in the long term, it tends to build back up. But rather, how many more people are being served by this more efficient way of getting across the lake? As those ridership numbers grow, these are just more people who don't have to fight traffic, more people who have managed to fit their lifestyle into a sort of light rail lifestyle where they can either take the bus to light rail and, it's worth it for them now.
It's giving you better options to improve your lifestyle of how you get places.
Yeah. And
you can find the quickest option.
Yeah, and the way we sort of like maximize that potential is by putting more places to live and more places to work within walking distance of these light rail stations. If you put a big apartment building right near a light rail line and where people work is also by a light rail line, like in a downtown,
boom,
then that's a huge tranche of people who can take advantage of this.
Joshua McNichols, who covers growth and development for KUOW and is co-host of the podcast Booming. Thanks for talking to us, Joshua.
Yeah, no problem.
By the way, Joshua wants to hear from you for a future episode of Booming. How will this light rail connection change your daily life? Send a note to Joshua and the team by emailing booming@kuow.org. Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thanks to our generous donors for the support you give the show. It means so much to us, every donation made. You can give a gift to Seattle Now by clicking the link in the show notes, and we love it when you like, follow, and review the show on your podcast app. Today's episode was produced by Andy Hurst. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Patricia Murphy. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Paige Browning. See you tonight for Evening Headlines.